into it. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share it if you can. We obviously engage with people on there, and any kind of engagement helps us massively with the algorithm. So please, like I said, subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below. For those listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcasting platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. That obviously helps us on the audio platforms as well. All right, guys, we've got obviously Tottenham United on the weekend to celebrate that big fixture. We're going to do a combined 11. God, that reminds me how much we're in the mud that we're doing a combined 11 for Man Utd Tottenham, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do 4-4-3 Todd Bowley style, but we're going to do 4-3-3. We'll start with the goalie, John. Who have you got?
Why aren't we doing 5-4-0 or 9-0 like on Arsenal? We can do a bit of Pulis ball and stick it.
No. We're not planning to get anyone sent off for delaying the restart. Let's do a 4-3-3. Start with the goalie. Who are you going with?
Onana.
God, this is a fucking mid-off, isn't it? This is an absolute mid-off.
But Onana. He can at least claim a couple of balls every now and then. He does knock people out sometimes, but it's better than flapping about.
Yeah, I mean, this one absolutely reeks, and I don't know if there's. I think they both stink. And I have to admit, I feel like we're both maybe being slightly disingenuous, but I will have to pick Onana as well, just because I genuinely think he's a better goalie than Vicario, but I don't have evidence to prove it. So if a Tottenham fan comes at me, I feel like they've got some leg to stand on, because the first half of last season, Vicario was good. The second half of last season, he dropped off as soon as people realised you could just throw the ball above him from a corner and he was going to shit bricks. So that's kind of continued into this season. And I watched an interview he did talking about it, and it was slightly concerning. If I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be slightly concerned because he wasn't taking much accountability for.
Yeah, you're saying it.
His. Yeah, I mean, as much as that's true, I feel like he needs to focus on himself, because there's definitely some areas he can improve from some set pieces. And if you watch a goalie like Raya recently, old school, come out and claim everything, it takes all the pressure off. And I was having this conversation with you guys yesterday. I don't know why goalies don't do it anymore. I have no idea why the art of coming out and claiming stuff and just taking everyone with the ball is not practiced anymore. And as much as we joke about the Onana thing, where he, against Wolves, where he came out and took about 5 men out and got the ball, or missed the ball, sorry, I would prefer that than to, just come out and flap about. But yeah, goalies don't do it anymore, and neither do these two. So, all right, we've both got Onana. That will rattle them up nicely. Let's go right back then. Who are you putting right back?
So in this case, are we counting Mazraoui and Delo as both your right backs, or just Mazraoui?
I think you can technically count both of them because they're both right backs, right? Delo's only playing left back because he has to.
All right, well, I don't think it matters. I'm going Mazraoui. I think Porro is really good going forward, but Mazraoui is an actual defender. And I'm sorry, but you got to be Trent levels of good if you can't defend at all.
Yeah, you know what? This feels unfair because I think Porro's obviously played in the league longer. And I do think he was one of the best right backs last season overall. But he's very lightweight, man, and defensively, I've looked at him a bit more this season, and I don't think he's been culpable necessarily for any goals blatantly, but I just feel like you can always get at him. And from the glimpses of Mazraoui so far, he's just been a 7 out of 10. And maybe this is me bringing my United PTSD into this, but I crave a 7 out of 10 defender. And I think Porro's got more ability to maybe hit a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, but he's definitely also got the ability to give you a 4 or 5 out of 10. And that scares me. And so I don't really want those kind of defenders. So from a preference perspective, I'm going to choose Mazraoui, but I would not be mad at all if a Tottenham fan came to me and said, "You're mad." I'd pick Porro because he's very good going forward. But I would have to pick Mazraoui as well. All right, let's go left back then. We'll swap sides. This one should be an easy one for them.
It's you, doggy. It's you, doggy. I'm sorry to say, Dalot. He looks like a decent right back, but he stinks at left back, and he's been got out by bloody Dibbling and all these dons. So I've got to put in there.
Yeah, I will. I will give Dalot.
Shout out Dibbling.
He's good,
he
mate.
Score at the weekend. He's good.
Yeah, exactly. He clearly looks quite good. He's Cobham, Chelsea fans stand up.
Boom.
But I think Dallow's not really a left back. Let's be
No.
honest. I mean, it's not really a comparison. And it's a damning indictment of our left back situation that he has to play there so regularly. The fact that we've got Luke Shaw, who's literally made out of mud, and then we've got bloody Malacia, who people thought was dead for a period. And thank God he's
We
not.
don't know what he's
Oh,
made
we,
out of
we
at
was
all. Yeah.
yeah, we were so worried about him because we didn't see pictures of him for like 18 months that we were worried the worst for him. But I'm very glad he's back in training and stuff. But there's no chance in hell we can put any United player at left back. It's got to be Udogie. He started this season pretty well as well. So yeah. All right, we'll go Udogie. I think that's unanimous as well. We'll go centre backs then. This one could be more interesting. You could go two absolute madmen, but I doubt we're both going to
No.
do that. But what's your pairing?
So I feel like this is probably cheating, but I'm going to go for Van der Ven and De Ligt. I'm not going for Leacher after the double foot in bloody torpedoes he's doing to Kamada, and the fact that Romero is basically the Neil Maupay of defence. I'm going to go for the two that I actually think would be good together. I think particularly if can you imagine the two of them together, right? Like Van der Ven engine, and then De Ligt is a general. I think that's exactly what you need, and what Romero should actually be doing next to Van der Ven is exactly what I think De Ligt will do next to Leacher. So I think I'm going to cheat and stick the two of the Dutchies together.
I don't think that's cheating. I think that's totally logical. That's fair. To be honest, that's also what I've gone with, and I think that will be the future Dutch centre back pairing, and it works. It's balanced.
Goes, yeah.
Well, yeah, he hasn't got that many years left, I think, but Van Dijk, to be honest, I think he'll probably retire from international to prolong his club career at some point as well. But yeah, I do think it works perfectly balance wise. Van der Ven's a left footer; he's got the pace. De Ligt is kind of more of the front foot defender, and he's quite aggressive and is more of the leader. I think they're a really good combo, and I think I wouldn't be shocked to see them for Holland really soon. And I think, I don't think that's cheating at all. I think that's the obvious one. I really do rate Leacher, and I still think he's our butcher and everything like that. But I just think if you want a player to keep his cool and just basically not do dumb shit, I don't think you could pick Leacher or Romero. I think Romero has slightly more of a bozo gene in him, but it's not actually that far away. As much as I want to try and throw slander on Romero and back my boy, they do dumb stuff, and personally, I don't want any part of that. So all right, let's go on to midfield then. Let's do the midfield two, I guess. Let's do the double pivot in midfield. Who are you going to do there?
So can we just clarify who we're including in this? So from Tottenham side, we're doing Sarr, Basuma, Bentancur, and that's it, right? I'm not going to include like Bergvall and all them dons, yeah.
Oh, you could if you want. I mean, it's just anyone who'd play in the 2 8s or the 6, the 6 position, because we know who the potential 10s are. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is the two centre midfielders.
All right, so Mainu has to get in there. So Mainu's one of them, and then I'm gonna have to go Sarr. I don't think Bentancur's all that. I think they try and act like he's better than he actually is, just like they do Romero. And I think Basuma could be good if he just sorted himself out and just stuck to football. And I know that I'm not saying that in a Sounessy type way, but I mean my man's doing balloons in his car and that, like, yeah,
Graham Chang.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing sourness, but he's got to just focus on being good at football, and then he can do balloons when he's retired. So yeah, I'm gonna go for Mainu and Pape Sarr, and I think actually that would be a really good combo because you've got Mainu's silky don playing the ball, progressing it forward, and you've got Sarr who's just going to go round. He can dribble with the ball too, but he's going to have all the energy, which is sometimes my complaint about Mainu is that he kind of plays at his own speed, whereas I think Sarr, he plays at his own speed too, but his speed is like bloody 5 times faster than everyone else's, and my man's just running around, which I think is exactly what you need.
Yeah. I mean, that is very tempting, to be honest, and that was something that I was playing around with, but I kind of pitted Sarr and Mainu against each other in a way.
And then like Ugarte against Basuma, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, I did, and I think I've obviously got to go for Mainu. I think he's generational, and I think Sar's a really good player, but I don't know if I don't know if he's got the same ceiling that Mainu does. So I have to go for Mainu, especially of some of the big moments and the way he's progressed. I do think he's had a rough couple of weeks, especially since the Liverpool game. I don't think he's been quite at the level that he's shown previously.
Mm.
Um, but I believe in him as a player going forward, and I think he'll bounce back eventually, and he'll reach higher highs than Sar. So I've got Mainu. In the other midfield position, I would love to pick Ugarte, but I haven't seen enough of him. And despite his balloon taking
Tendencies.
discretions,
Yeah.
indiscretions, I've gone for Basuma.
Interesting. Okay.
So I've gone, Basuma and Mainu. I think just because he'll sit, he covers a lot of the ground as well. He's not quite Sar in terms of his engine, but he does cover a lot of the ground. He's able to press. He can be more conservative if needs be, and I think he'll be a good complement to Mainu in midfield. So yeah, I've gone Eves, Basuma, and Mainu. All right, let's go the 10 then. This is probably what everyone's been waiting for. It's the Madison Bruno head to head. Who you going with? Don't fucking let me down.
So I'm going for James. No, I'm kidding. I'm going for Bruno. I'm going for Bruno. I don't think he had a good game against Crystal Palace though. I can't remember off the top of my
No,
head,
he
but I don't
wasn't
think he
good.
was very good.
No, he wasn't good. He was poor.
But I still think I see more in him from an output perspective, and again, substance. And I think Madison even came out recently after his goal, right? Because it's the first time he's scored in a while now, and he was like trying to show everyone, oh, like that's not what matters. And I think I can't remember what exactly the quote was, but I think he came out on his like Instagram or his Twitter or something, and he basically said like, this is for all of you lot that only look at numbers when you watch football, which is a bit salty from him, isn't it? Trying to cover up the fact that he just can't score or assist in a team that really doesn't have any other outlets. So it's a bit stinky on his part. So I've got to go for Bruno. I think yes, he's a bit ratty. Yes, he's wasteful, but he delivers, and I think that's what at the end of the day that's what matters. So big old Bruno, let's go. You're much better than your countryman Bernardo.
Yeah, the fact this comes after the City Arsenal game is hilarious because Bruno's now suddenly getting extra fans because he's not quite Bernardo level. No, I've obviously got to go Bruno as well. I do rate Madison, like I said. I do think he's a really enjoyable player to watch. Like I think the way his technique is really good, and the way that he manipulates the ball and everything, and
Yeah, just
travels
ball
with the ball
roll,
is really
ball roll,
impressive.
ball roll, ball roll.
Yeah, stud roll FC, but
Yeah.
he's a really good player, and I do think he's got the talent and the skill set to reach the levels of some of the people he's being compared with. But I don't think he's got there yet, and I think there's a rush, like I said earlier when we were talking about the Tottenham United preview and all that. I think a lot of Tottenham fans put their players into conversations that they're not quite in. And I understand why. I guess they had, Tottenham have had a taste as much as we make fun of them during that Pochettino run of really good football. And they were kind of, they were at that top table with big clubs in Champions League finals, top two in the league, playing good football, and they were there. So I understand why they maybe feel like they're at that level, but they've had Mourinho, Conte, and now they're living in Ange's period, none of which have kind of reached those heights. And I don't think the players they've currently got are going to be able to get them there. And I don't believe they're able to be compared with, for the most part, United have still got a lot of players that were second under Ollie. So a team that were in that kind of similar position to Tottenham were under Pochettino. So yeah, I don't think Madison is there, and I think as much as like you said, he's talked about for the the Statman Daves and all Statos and all these guys and Optas and all these guys that talk about stats. It isn't just about stats, but you got to do something. You can't just be doing beautiful little tricks and flicks on the ball, and your team's out here losing at home for the third year in a row to your biggest rivals, and out here dropping points to Leicester and out here doing all these other things.
Losing to
I'm
Newcastle.
sorry, mate.
Yeah.
You can't be doing that. So you can be playing fancy football on your way to winning a treble or winning a Premier League title or a Champions League. And I agree. I don't think we should be just looking at your stats. But you got to still contribute, man. Look at how we judge Jack Grealish. He's won everything. And people are on him because even though he's a good player and he can do some nice things, he hasn't contributed enough. And we're not talking about out here banging out Erling Haaland numbers, but you got to have something, right? You got to do something. And Maddison, I'm sorry, you're playing by the same rules, and he hasn't. So yeah, I've got to go with Bruno, and it's going to seem mad coming off the Palace game because he had a stinker. He was poor. There's clips going around of him just running around and passing the ball and giving the ball away and like looking like he's a kid who's never played football. You know what I mean? Like under 8 soccer in the United States type level. And so it's gonna not look good. The timing of this is not gonna look good, but I have to go Bruno.
Yeah, but we're not prisoners
right,
at the moment. We're not prisoners at the moment. I've got to also say, for any of you lot that are saying like, anti-stats and all that, and trying to use Zidane as your example, Zidane won the bloody World Cup, the Euros, the Champions League, La Liga, and Serie A numerous times. Stop using that to try and support bloody James Maddison, please God. Right? He's just a reborn David Bentley. You're trying to get him in conversations again. I get it. But he doesn't belong there. It's like when you try and force Ledley King into conversations about best Premier League centre back. Guys, I get it. You want to be invited to the party. I'm sorry though. You're gonna have to watch from outside the club because you can't get in.
Not for a while yet. Fight for Harry Kane and Gareth Bale and those guys. Luka Modric. They've had bloody class players. They fight for the weird ones. I don't get it. I agree with you. All right, let's go for left wing then. Who are you going to put left wing?
I'm going Son. I'm going to say he's a traditional left winger. I know that you might do something different, but I'm going to go for Son. I think he's traditionally a left winger. I know that he's probably transitioning more to be a striker these days, but you haven't seen that fully happen. And the fact that Tottenham have bought Solanke, I think Son's going to have to be reserved. He's going to have to stay on the left wing, and I think he's still. His form's a bit iffy, but he's still good enough, in my opinion, to say that he's better than Rashford right now, and historically better than Garnacho. So I'm going to go Son.
Yeah, I have gone different on this, but that's not because I'm dissing Son. I love me some Son. So I've gone Garnacho left wing. And I am maybe being a bit of a prisoner in the moment because obviously, he hasn't achieved as much as Son when Son was playing left wing, even as much as Rashford in the years gone by. But I'm just looking at how he's playing at the moment and where he's been in the last couple of seasons, and I feel like he's trending upwards. And I think sometimes you've got to hedge your bets early, and as much as a lot of, and I'm not saying he's going to be some Galactico or anything like that, but I do think he has the potential, and the way he's performing at the moment, the way he's improving, he's trending towards being one of the Premier League's top wingers, and he's not there or they're close to being there yet. But I think he's got that potential, and the way he's performing, if you compare him with other young players who've come in his position or on the wings either flank, he is reaching and following the same trend of the level improvement of those people. So yeah, I think Garnacho left wing. I don't think it's the obvious choice, but I'm sorry, Tottenham. If you take Son out of the equation, they ain't got no one. Their wingers stink. So there's no way a winger can get anywhere near this combined 11 from Tottenham unless you pick Son. And I've gone for a different tactic for my man. All right, let's go right wing then. Who are you going to pick right wing?
Amad Diallo. I do want to say, though, what they're doing to Brennan Johnson's harsh. I know he's not as good as they expected him to be. I get that. But what they're doing is mad. Right? Like, you've got Timo Werner on the other side. At least Brennan Johnson's trying. And I'll be honest with you, he's somewhat exciting. Like, right? Like, he's running at people. I know that his end product is not great. but he does get past people. He does create chances of some kind. He just can't put them away. I think with those kinds of players, if you nurture them correctly, teach them a bit here and there, kind of like a Raheem Sterling type of thing, they can turn into much better players. So what they're doing to my man is harsh, but I've got to say Ahmad is just, he's better. And that cutting that he does, I think he just contributes more to the team. I think the way that he plays is more difficult for a defender to try and play against. So I'm going to go for Ahmad. Yeah. Who are you going for?
Now I'm going for Ahmed as well. Is again going to seem prisoner of the moment-ish because he hasn't played more than 20 Premier League games or whatever. But yeah, I think it's kind of a no-brainer just because of the lack of options from Tottenham's side. I think their right wing is particularly weak as well. I know Kulusevski has played there previously, but he's kind of almost now played more as a 10. Yeah, so I felt kind of
it's not really a winger.
It's not really fair to put him out the wing. Yeah. So it's kind of our weak point too. I'm not going to lie. That's why we were interested in Elise and stuff like that. But I think we've given Ahmad the chance, and I think that he's done pretty much as best as you could hope from someone who's been thrown in the deep end. I do think he should score a few more goals and maybe come up with a few more assists than he has so far. But that's literally asking for someone to follow the same kind of trajectory as like we've seen with Garnacho and like we've seen with some other young prospect wingers. And Ahmed, to be honest, has been thrown in there cold a little bit, and I almost feel like Ten Hag's probably hampered his development in some ways up until now. So, but what I have seen from him, it looks good. I like him a lot. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's got the potential to be, a really effective goal-scoring winger for us. So yeah, I think that one's kind of a bit of a no-brainer and kind of Ahmad by default because there's not too many options on that side. Let's go up top then. Who's going to be a striker?
This one I think is the mid-off.
There's a couple mid-offs, let's be honest.
I mean, I feel like this is the dark horse mid-off. I think people think that both teams have got better strikers than they actually have got. I think obviously Richarlison's not getting anywhere near that. Pigeon Man sticks on the side. I don't particularly want to give it to Solanke because I think I know that people are going to say how many goals he scored last season, but I just don't see it. I mean, eye test wise, I think he's good, but I just don't technically. I can't try and say that he's technically that much better than Xerxes or Højlund. I think he's more comparable to Højlund in the way that he plays, sure. But I think you've probably got a slightly higher ceiling with Højlund. But I'm going to go for the unconventional choice, and I'm going to go for Joshua Xerxes. And the reason
I didn't see that coming.
And the reason I'm going to do that is because I think if you think about it as having Son on your left wing and maybe having Diallo on your right wing, they're goal-scoring wingers, in my opinion. And I'm trying to think of a Liverpool prime type of idea here, where they've got a Firmino, who is a link-up player. He can connect the two of them. He gets Bruno into the game, etc., etc. And I really like what I see from him. I know people are going to make fun of him and call him Squirtsy and all this other stuff, but I actually think he's got more potential to really affect you and make you a better team than I think Højlund or Solanke will make Tottenham a better team. Right? I honestly think Solanke's always going to be in Harry Kane's shadow, essentially. I think he's never going to be quite as good as that. So they're always going to become kind of a shadow of their former self. And I don't think he offers as much as Kane could, right? He can't spray balls. He can't drop in deep, etc., etc. And I would probably argue with Højlund, yes, he can score if he's on fire and stuff like that. And if he gets into good form, he could probably be really dangerous. But I just think if you look at a normal game, any game that you're playing, I think Xerxes affects the game more. And I'm going to put that down to old Havertz. He's taught me the benefits of not, not only scoring. It's not only about goals. You know what I mean? Sometimes you've got to do some of the foreplay as well. You got to do the foreplay as well, lads. So I'm going Squirtsy. Squirtsy in the 9. Let's go, baby.
When you tick that bit on YouTube and it asks you is it for kids or not? That's a no. That's a no. That's a no for this one. Yeah, no, I didn't see that coming. I've gone for Son. I've done a techie one, and I've tried to fit him in there because there's no one on that. Either of these teams who finishes better than Son, And I think the reality is his days on the left wing are numbered, and he's never really been a touchline winger anyway, to be honest. He's always been someone who's been more of a goal scoring winger, even when he was in his prime. And kind of played a lot of the way that, Mane, Salah, it was very much with Kane kind of working with him to try and get the best out of him. And Kane was just so good that he would still be able to score a bunch of goals, kind of sacrificing for Son. And so I think it's just a natural progression for him to go, just like his kind of similar, we all make the joke, Ronaldo, just like Ronaldo, he needs to transition to that, becoming that goal scoring striker and cold-blooded finisher. And I think he's got it in him. So I'm going to go Son up front. And I think it does just it's also because Xerxes, Højlund, Solanke, I think they're all good players, man. But I don't think any of them are an outstanding candidate that are able to distract me away from Son. Son is and has been legitimately a world-class player, is going to be a Premier League great when he retires or leaves the league. And I still think he's effective enough in front of goal that I can't not pick him in this team. I get where you're coming from with Xerxes, but I also feel like Xerxes and Bruno, I think the jury's still out a little bit on that combination. I think the Firmino type setup with a deep lying forward works when you've got quite a defensive midfield, because he almost drifts into that attacking midfielder space, and then you've got your attacking forwards to go in behind, and it kind of works. And sometimes I feel like Bruno and Xerxes almost kind of step on each other's toes because they're both.
Don't you kind of feel like Bruno gets too far forward? Because I know that Bruno's a 10, but I don't think he's the type of 10 that is like an Odegaard or a Foden, where they actually need to get high up the pitch and dribble with the ball and play those kind of right angle passes. I actually prefer Bruno where he's ahead of Mainu and in your case Basuma, and in my case Sarr, but he's not like bombing straight forward, because I actually like him kind of in that Trent-esque thing where he picks the ball up in a little bit of space and is able to spray it over the top. And that's kind of where I'm picturing him, because I agree with you. I don't think he works as like too far progressed forward, in my opinion. I actually like him better as kind of a spraying balls over the top. I think that's where he really shines, and then kind of coming onto the like arriving in the box late. I like him in that position. I don't like him in like the dribbling 10 kind of role. I'm not a big fan of that.
No, I don't think that's ever been his game really, but I do think in early part of his career at United, especially, he was very much in that 10. And he was dictating from the 10, and he was still playing balls over the top, and he's never been like a through ball merchant on the ground. He plays a lot of balls over the top and from the sides and stuff like that, but he's definitely taken up the 10 role. But I think because we had those issues with striker, he's also become really effective actually going beyond as a false 9. So I do think actually the way it will work with him is, like you said, he's either got to drop deep and start dictating from deep, which I think he's totally capable of doing. And it plays into the whole kind of Hail Mary Bruno ball kind of agenda and narrative that there is. Or he has to run beyond Xerxes, which I think he's also totally capable of doing if Xerxes drops deep. But I do think at the moment they haven't quite worked it out. So they sometimes kind of step on each other's toes, and they haven't quite got each other's games yet. But I do think it's possible it can work. But I think the jury still is out because we haven't seen the proof yet. But
True.
I would prefer, with someone like Son over the top, receiving those balls over the top from Bruno. I think that could be a lethal combo. But yeah, I've gone Son up top. Let's do a quick recap of our teams then. So my team, I've gone Onana in goal, Mazraoui right back, Udogie left back, centre back pairing of De Ligt and Van der Ven. Midfield is Basuma and Mainu with Bruno in the 10. And then I've got Garnacho on the left-hand side, Amad Diallo on the right-hand side. And then I've got Son up front. You've gone Onana as well. In goal, you've gone Mazraoui right back. You've gone Udogie left back. You've also gone Van der Ven and De Ligt in midfield. You've gone Papa Matessar and Mainu in midfield. Defence, for Van der Ven and De Ligt. And then you've gone Papa Matessar and Mainu in midfield. You've got Bruno in the 10. Son at left wing. Amad at right wing. And then you've gone Xerxes up top. So yeah, they're pretty close, to be honest. Not too many differences in that team, and it's still also really even if you look at them. That shows that both teams are pretty evenly matched. But yeah, that's our combined 11.